I just came off of a retreat and the faucet water was bad. Sick for about 4 days. Really bad stomach bug. But the practice, well, the unfolding was happening at night, so that was still that was still occurring. Something's been shifting in the last, I don't know, half year or something, and it's more so become crystallized and in the last month. There's really uh, one moment you could say where you wake up from the dream of being a person or being the body, and you have a direct recognition of presence of the true nature of your mind. And from that point on, the path is never the same. If the discourses and the teachers didn't make sense after that moment, it all begins to make sense. Zen calls it, all at once you discover your own face. You see very clearly that it's always been this room of experience. Right now, it looks like this conversation we're having, or it's appearing as this class. Tonight, the room of experience will appear as your dreams. In the morning, the room of experience will appear as you waking up in the morning. Fundamentally, everything that happens is just this: permutations and configurations of this. Every state that you experience in meditation, some of you have access to jhanas, some of you have out of body experiences. Everything that is experienced is a reality. You've never known anything outside reality. You've never known anything outside experience. They're two words for the same thing. So reality or experience is never increasing or decreasing. You never get more reality or less reality. You may get more clarity, but you don't get more reality. When this becomes evident, the aspects of the mind which interpret things in the forms of narrative, I, me, mine, this body, that body, I need to do this, I need to do that. It becomes very evident that all of those thoughts are events within this field. They essentially are this field. A positive thought or a negative thought, it's not like the positive thought is more reality and the negative thought is less reality. They're both immediate. They're both events within the field. They both are the field. The paradox with reality or experience or this is that anything that you point to in this field is reality. Like, this hat is reality. this lamp is reality. But I can't actually find this thing called reality. All I find is what appears. Same thing for the word experience. Experience is always occurring. Experience is uninterrupted. Experience is unbroken. Your awareness comes or goes. Your clarity increases or decreases. Your equanimity increases or decreases. Bliss increases or decreases. You have these learnings or these insights that occur in time. But the apparent play of time and space is happening in this timeless and spaceless matrix of here. It never increases, it never decreases. So some people call this the stateless state. Reality is every state, but you can't find this essence called reality in any particular state. So this is the recognition when this becomes the primary orientation of the yogi, the practitioner, the meditator, the validity and reality of interpretations begin to cease. And it's with their ceasing that freedom dawns. Initially, you find you're definitely not the body. Next, you find you're definitely not a seeker and you're not what you're thinking. And eventually, you find that even awareness is not a true home. You're aware if your samadhi is good, you don't have much to do, you're meditating a lot. But if those conditions are not there, you may not have as much awareness. Nonetheless, reality or experience is unbroken. And nothing needs to be done about it. It's not something you're producing. The thing with meditation and all spiritual practices and states is that they're born of production. They're fabrications, essentially, even if they're profound. And even if those fabrications can lead to awakening, initially, yeah, even if they can't lead to awakening initially, a fabrication is a fabrication. It's something that your mind is creating. It's something that through practice and through concentration, you're guiding awareness into a specific state. In these states, things can be learned, or upon emerging from these states, things can be learned, and that's really their utility. You learn more about the experiential field. You learn more about what this actually is, how it's appearing. There's aspects of it that are not immediately evident or apparent. And these are things that become noticed and learned in time. But the freedom of liberation is really simply the cessation of the mind. It's the annihilation of the reality that has been attributed to thought. You believe that you're in bondage, and so you're in bondage. You believe that you're a person in time, so you are. You believe that you're a seeker, and you're almost there. And so inevitably, you're a seeker, and you're almost there. The edifice of thought, the tower of belief, is creating this shadow that you can't escape. The shadow that follows you wherever you go. There's this stench of grasping. There's this incessant more, incessant, this isn't enough, incessant, I need to be better, incessant, I'm unworthy, incessant, I didn't do it right, it's too late, I don't have a chance, where did it all go wrong? That is being subject to thought, being subject to interpretations of what we think is happening. We have no idea what's happening, ever. We have best guesses, we have maybes, but we don't actually know what's going on or what causes what. There seems to be a relationship between events and time. There seems to be causality. It seems that firewood produces ash. No one would argue against that. But if we examine very closely, at what point is firewood no longer firewood and it's now ash? Is it fourth of the way burned? Is it 50% burned? Does it have to be 75% burned for firewood to be considered ash? Dogen said firewood is firewood and ash is ash. We only know causality because of memory and perception, awareness. Without these three components in your experience, there is no causality. Without awareness, memory, and perception, there's no path. Without awareness, memory, and perception, there's no time. Without awareness, memory, and perception, there's no you. You, as you know yourself, only exist because the conditions which allow that knowing are present in this state. In other ones, they aren't. And those states in which they aren't, of course, a great deal of my work up to this point has been directed at. That initial awakening, for some people, it's just the recognition of awareness. They just, oh, I'm aware. And for other people, it's the destruction of the world. You thought you were one thing, and suddenly you realize you aren't. And some people take that better than others. But from the dawn of awakening, and I say confidently, all of you have passed that point. What happens afterwards? All at once, you discover your own face. All at once, there's a recognition of awareness, or even more so, a recognition of consciousness. And from that point on, the mechanism of cessation is rolling, is in place. Actually, it's been in place all along, but it just took a particular moment in time for it to manifest or become evident. So if you notice and you attend to what's happening in your unfolding, you see that you're continuously confronted with your attachments. Like what's happening in dreams and what's happening in the bardo is exactly what is happening in life. In dreams, you have these situations where you're confronted with things that make your fears come up and make you have reactions. And life is exactly the same way. The conditions that we're faced with are often the exact conditions that are necessary for further letting go and for the further shaving down, thinning of the me that's holding on, the me that needs to have it his way, her way, my way, whatever way. You gain things, you lose things. And it's in the losing, actually, so often that you surrender. It's in the losing that you become less about yourself. There are two perspectives that I speak from and teach from. One perspective includes time, the other one doesn't. So, time always refers to the lessons, the things that you're learning, and the challenges that you're facing. The addictions, vexations, habitual tendencies, which are being exhausted and extinguished through the encounters with specific conditions. That's in time. What is not in time is this here. Reality, experience. Everything that you attempt to do to get closer to this is rooted in desire. There's not even a way to get closer to this. There is no getting closer to reality. That doesn't make sense. How would you get closer to reality? If everything's reality, how would you get closer to it? What you're getting closer to is your projection of what you think enlightenment is. What you're getting closer to is thought. And you don't see that it's fantasy. And that's why it has a hold on you. That's why it's never enough. That's why you've been on this path for 30 years or 40 years. And you look at some people and they're like, how do they get it? But I don't get it. It's because you still believe in that thought. That one, there's an I. That two, there's a thing called getting. That three, there's a person over there. That four, that person got something. And at five, you don't have it. Those are all ideas. They're not real. But you torture yourself as if they are. Anything that you attempt to do is an event that is happening in this, an event that is happening in here, in the room of experience, in the field of experience. Any action is actually a subset. That's a child of the field, essentially. So I say all these things to you today, and then after class, you get this idea, okay, I need to drop this spirituality thing. That's another doing. Don't even take your hands off the steering wheel, because if you were to, it has the agenda of becoming free. Surrender has the agenda of reducing suffering. Meditating has the agenda of deepening awakening. But there's no deepening. Reality is not getting deeper. The room is just changing. In this moment, you're in your ordinary state. You go into meditation, you enter a samadhi, you lose contact with your body, and there's stillness. It's the same room of experience. It's the same field. In one moment, it looks like this, and you're hearing me talk. In another moment, the same field appears as a vast stillness, empty, limitless space. In another moment, could be cosmic consciousness, the all seeing beloved that gazes through the eyes of innumerable beings. It's always this room, it's always God. And not recognizing it, perceiving ourselves as narratives and as beings in time is the meaning of the word ignorance. And based on that ignorance, based on that misperception, the edifice, the wheel of samsara is born. And so, because of our lack of recognition, our absence of realization, the reality of thought is taken seriously, and we continue to lose ourselves in our own dreams, suffering the consequences of our own imagined worlds. Everything that has happened up to this point was in your mind. You have dreamt your whole life. The truth is you never actually ever knew another person. Relationship is not actually possible if everyone and everything is God. All that you've known is your own nervous system, your own spheres of hearing, feeling, tasting, touching, thinking, sensing, smelling, cognizing, intending, attending, your own spheres of memory, your own spheres of creativity. The very love that you think you receive from another person and that you crave so deeply, that you need so badly, is arising in your own brain, arising in you. And you think you need someone or something to be what you are. You think you need someone to give you permission to exist, or permission to do this or to do that. It's all just thought. You have dreamt your whole life, and you dreamt the last one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. And in some of these, maybe you got you had enough clarity to see your own trip, that every incarnation is actually a bardo. And that there actually are only transitional states. There actually are only in betweens. For a while now, resurgence of this term, the matrix and conventional reality and all of these things. There's only one place the matrix exists, and it's in your mind. The matrix of I'm not good enough. The matrix of I lost the awakening. I had it, but I lost it somehow. I don't know what happened. The matrix of when I finally get enlightened, I'll have won the ultimate game. The matrix of I'm going to play a game that no one else plays, or that very few people play, and that if I play it well, I get to be special. As long as thought continues to have a reality for you, as long as there is conviction in belief and conviction in what happens and conviction in what has happened and conviction in where you think you are going, you will be limited to time. You'll be limited to events. You'll be limited to conditions. So for a mind in which the reality of time has ended, the reality of thought has ended, the reality of belief has ended, even the reality of now has ended. There's never a concern about awakening bondage. Enlightenment is just an idea. Whatever people designate as some final state, there's no way to know that any state is final. There could always be more. There could always be some deeper truth, some more refined, more fundamental configuration of reality. Human consciousness is obsessed with finality. I think there's a good quote from Watchmen by Alan Moore. He said, secretly in the heart of all men is the wish for the apocalypse. And notice how today, like ChatGPT is doing this thing, or the AIs are doing this thing. They're always telling you that, like, you're at the final door, you're on the precipice of a breakthrough. Um, there's this need to arrive, and that need is purely born of thought. It is the collective push, the collective force of generations and generations and generations of thought, the force of the biological organism. Things which you attribute to yourself that you beat yourself up over primarily are the result of being an animal. Even animals get jealous. Even animals crave attention. You didn't teach them to crave attention. Biological organisms crave attention. Isn't that strange? If it's the case that animals get jealous, what use of it is it to you to make it personal? Say there's something wrong with yourself. You don't actually know if there's something wrong. You just think there's something wrong. You don't even know if there's something right. You just think there's something right as well. What we define as greater or lesser or more or less is entirely culturally or biologically dictated. In these levels and configurations of reality that are outside ordinary perception, ordinary consciousness, those structures don't exist. When you're the eye that sees through all beings, is there really any possibility for jealousy? Really any possibility for envy or hatred? Those things are only possible in the meat suit, in the localization of that omniscience and omnipresence that is our nature, or one of our natures. So, so you do this spiritual thing, you come to my classes, you listen to me, you listen to someone else tomorrow, you go to this satsang and you go to that satsang, and in the back of your mind, you're asking, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing? The you that is attempting to understand, the you that is attempting to make something happen, the you that is attempting to get closer to God, or in some cases further away, the you that is attempting to wake up, or the you that is attempting to forget. You'll be faced with the same hamster wheel, trying to figure it out, trying to find yourself, trying to awaken, trying to end your pain, because that's what this is actually about. Did you want to change and save the world, or did you just want pain to stop? It's important to be clear and authentic about why it is you began, and why it really is, what the real reason you're doing something what that real reason is. If you know that this is actually about taking the knife out of your chest that's been in there for a decade, if you know that's what this is actually about, then you can have a better understanding as to what you're doing, why. The first noble truth of suffering captures everything. It's the same meaning as the words that Christ said when he was on the cross. And he said, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? That's the first noble truth, to be forsaken, to suffer. But sometimes we're not able to know why it is that we're doing something. Sometimes that has to be learned. Not every principle and not every maxim applies in every situation. Oftentimes they don't. If you can be clear on why, be clear. If you can't, don't bother. Maybe it's not meant for you to figure out. Maybe it's not meant for you to understand, because that's exactly the key to breaking your conceptual mind. That is exactly the key to the end of you. How much of this I need to figure it out. I need to become more. I need to practice more. I need to get more awakened. I need to get more enlightened. How much of the you is tied up in that? I guess probably a significant amount. As far as your path in time, you will be confronted with lessons, with simulations that are purely encounters with your own attachment. That is actually what is happening on this planet. They call it the Earth learning system. The Earth learning system. Because this place happens to be half heaven and half a hell hungry ghost realm, and that same duality exists in your body. The upper chakras are the heavenly bodies, and the lower chakras are the other side. Because of that dualism, because of that dynamic, you're able to go through life experiences such to such an extent that a letting go arises, and an awakening begins to dawn. Give me 1 second. I like lost my headphones. Yeah, I think I'm back. Okay. Final few words. Up to this point, I've taught many of you states and stages, and how to go from initial awakening to the witness, and then no self, and then emptiness, and then on horizon, blah 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 blah. Doesn't matter. I was wrong. I was wrong to ever give you anything that kept you in time. I was wrong to ever give you anything that kept you in process. I was wrong to ever give you anything that gave you the impression that by doing this or by doing that, you would get closer to reality. There is no getting closer. You could say, hey, but there's a deeper awakening. There's more that falls away. Some awakened people have grasping, some others don't. Clearly, that's a difference. One person's more awakened than the other. Having more or having less attachment are both configurations of the same field. That one person is purer than another, or further along, you could say that another is purely a designation. There's only this field. And we could say, in the relative sense, there are stages and differences amongst teachers. Some have more attachment, some have less. But where is it enshrined in the golden tablets of the Lord? Where does it say on those that more attachment or less attachment is equated with realization? We only have these views because of Buddhism and Hinduism, Vedanta, the sages that have come before. And they may be right. Likely they are. But you attempting to become something you're not is keeping you in time. You attempting to become more awakened or to return to some samadhi or satori that you once knew is purely the product of your own imagination, your own desire. You're dreaming it. Your path through time, you're dreaming it. Your path to here, you dreamt it. The difference between me and my former self is that I don't believe the dream anymore. I don't see the dream anymore. I don't exist in time anymore. When that becomes evident to you, how could you possibly be what you are now or what you've been up to this point? It's a valid question to ask yourself if this is actually what you want. Because it's not about happiness. We all did this, or we're doing this to find happiness and peace, some sense of belonging, some sense that everything is okay. And this is not that. This is the death of those things as motivators, as realities, as orientations, as goals, as values. This is the annihilation of the world. And at first you think you finally transcended this place, only to realize that's also another trip, that you did something, that you overcame the demons, that you made the sacrifice, that you did what you were asked to do. And for a while, you revel in having crossed the abyss. And then you lose even that. And when there's nothing left, there's just this sweetness of it all. You realize it was always the heart. Everything, everything was the heart. The heart that didn't know itself, the heart that lost itself, the heart that needed another heart, the heart that wanted to be free, the heart that wanted to find itself in another, the heart that wanted to lose itself in time, that wanted to enter this dream of forgetfulness. In the end, you find yourself where you began. And it turns out that everything is redeemed, everything is saved. And that's the meaning of God is love. All right, I had enough. So I'm gonna stop the recording now.